Wait, hold it a second. Wasn't this same girl kidnapped while getting water in the last story? Yeah. Yeah, she totally was. Broke the glass, too. Never gets to meet a single Zyuranger either. I think we found the unluckiest person in the franchise in the 19th installment of the all-new Mighty Morphin Zyurangers. I'm really excited about this one. That might come as a surprise to you given how relatively unimportant this pairing is. And I don't blame you for that because it surprises me too. This isn't like The Green Candle, a big event episode where I have a lot of nostalgic, emotional investment, or no, there are huge changes that are gonna blow your mind. They're just a lot of little things that make me excited, and together, they form a really bizarre comparison. If you remember a few months ago, I covered Be Careful of Shaved Ice, which establishes a precedent for the Dragon Rangers simply not showing up. I said then that Mighty Morphin Power Rangers found it easier to push such episodes earlier into the season, rather than have to explain Tommy being absent. Well, this is another one of those episodes. Kind of. But not at all similar to Shaved Ice. Barai doesn't appear in this episode. Kind of. I mean, he's present in dreams and visions. His actor definitely showed up on set, filmed scenes, and got a paycheck. The episode is absolutely, totally all about him, but Barai the actual character never shows up at all. How Barai is used in this episode is quite meaningful. It's also completely useless for Power Rangers to adapt. He personally has nothing to do with the external conflict of the episode, and never takes part in it. As such, he never transforms into the Dragon Ranger. Therefore, there's no way for Power Rangers to include the Green Ranger. That Barai's in it but not in it is crazy enough, but unlike Power Ranger Punks, the episode made from Be Careful of Shaved Ice, Rita's Seed of Evil is not pushed to earlier in the season before Tommy joins the Power Rangers. Instead, they do the opposite and adapt this one way later in the season, after the Zyuranger storyline of Mighty Morphin Power Rangers is over. I mean, that works equally well for this purpose. Tommy is just as gone from the team as he would be in the early season, but for a completely different reason. What excites me about it is that it unexpectedly allows me to dip my toe into the second era of Season 1. Basically, the original section of Season 1 of Mighty Morphin Power Rangers aired 40 episodes from August through November of 1993, with its final episode reaching what could be considered a conclusion to its storyline, albeit left open-ended. Those are the episodes that adapt the footage of Kyoryu Sentai Zyuranger. However, after it became a big hit, they returned the following February with 20 new episodes that filled out the rest of the broadcast season. So that they could actually have fight footage to use in these episodes, Saban commissioned Toei to create new Zyuranger-esque scenes. They weren't actually part of Zyuranger, although they looked like they could have been. I like these episodes a lot. At least, I remember liking them a lot. I came into Power Rangers rather late in the original Season 1 episodes, so these 1994 episodes were a big deal. They were the first batch of new episodes after months of reruns, and they felt new and special. And I'm completely going off of memory here, but I think they were far more cohesive. It certainly helps that they had more experience under their belts. It also makes sense that they would flow better, working with footage explicitly created for them. There aren't any weird cuts necessitated by Japanese characters or untransformed team members. The show starts adding vocal insert songs. They even eventually changed the way the Megazord is formed, which I always thought was cool. Although, now that I see it again, it looks really weird and low quality. I also expected I'd never be able to touch any of these episodes for these videos because there's no comparison. They are completely original Power Ranger stories. This one, however, is not. So thanks for letting me waste your time explaining all of that. It's one of the Zyuranger episodes they skipped over in their original 40 and decided to go back to once they had a chance to make more Power Rangers adventures. So for my purposes, it has a lot of the advantages of Saban's experience and success with Power Rangers, but is still a direct adaptation of Zyuranger. It allows me to take the tiniest of excursions into my most beloved area of the franchise. What a great surprise! This is a really interesting episode of Zyuranger, primarily because it's about Geki, who doesn't really get all that much focus aside from being the leader. Racked with guilt over how much of Barai's time he's wasted with his incessant cries of Nisa, Geki is now determined not to ever need his brother's help, which is causing him to act more and more recklessly. Interestingly, he immediately flip-flops to the other extreme when Bandora tempts him by claiming her new plant monster, Dora Narcissus, has the power to save Padme from certain death. Yeah, I get a lot of Star Wars prequel vibes from this whole scenario. Apparently, Dora Narcissus can literally resurrect the dead, which is an oddly specific and narratively convenient trait to give your evil destructive monster. Because of this, Geki can't bring himself to defeat said monster, even to the point of harming himself to defend it. And Goshi, for his part, is having none of this crap. Look at this side-eye. It amazes me how quickly he becomes completely disgusted by his leader's terrible behavior. Then again, he's already seen Geki's reluctance cause them to get their butts kicked, so I guess he's learned forgiveness doesn't work. So here we are. It's a wonderfully melodramatic episode that features real character development and conflict. There's actually very little of the usual formula here. It's far more about Geki's and Goshi's relationship than it is about costumed fights or robot fights, and as such, there's very little of either. Between that and its focus on the impending death of a character who's not even in their show anymore, Power Rangers can't use any of it. Instead, this becomes a bog-standard episode about the Power Rangers planting trees to save the environment.
I just hope the people of Angel Grove will treat them with care and respect.
Good grief, you're such suck-ups. No wonder Bulk and Skull bully you. So yeah, the Power Rangers plant trees, which inspires Rita to make a plant monster, the Octoplant. Meanwhile, Bulk and Skull get trapped in a port-a-potty. It's fine. There's very little wrong with this. It's a solid episode. It's got the monsters, it's got the fights, it's got the comedy, it's got everything you need for a typical Power Rangers episode. But aside from being the first of a new batch of episodes, it's not all that special. It has a great putty fight used to distract the Rangers from squat planting Rita's seeds. This is at that point where Billy doesn't have to wear overalls all the time, but he hasn't ditched the glasses or started showing off how ripped he is. He's still sweet, nerdy Billy, but he's come a long way from
my power morpher.
There's this cute bit where he steps in a bucket and then uses the bucket to fight. He gets to do a synchronized backflip with Zack. There's good teamwork and choreography here. Jason does not get the character focus that Geki does. At best, he's able to convince Zordon that teamwork sucks, and he's going to go look for Rita's seeds by himself. It's not really much of a search. Jason teleports back to the park and is like, oh hey, there where the special effect is. And at least they have their own tentacle props to badger Jason with. This allows Power Rangers to use that tiny bit of footage at the beginning where Geki rushes into danger and needs his teammates to save him. Sadly, no stank eye from Zack. The other big element of this Zyuranger episode is, like I've said, the fact that Goshi seems to want to murder Geki. Totally unrelated, but I love this leap into battle face he has. Goshi just has good faces in this episode. Eventually, Dora Narcissus attacks Geki when he's on his own, but Tuxedo Mask arrives to save the day. Actually, it's some random night guy, and he's not here to help, but to attack Geki, stealing his dino buckler, even fighting off Dora Narcissus so that he can have the kill. The knight taunts Geki for not caring about the fight or his friends. At this point, it should be pretty obvious what's going on. The knight finally backs Geki into a corner, forcing him to shake off his hesitancy and cut open the knight's helmet, revealing Goshi, who has staged this whole thing to knock some sense into his leader. It's amazing, and it's so sad Power Rangers trades it all in for more of the usual antics. Obviously, they couldn't have used any of his footage, but they could have created their own conflict. Jason and Zack already have too little to do in this show as it is. This is such a wonderful moment, showing exactly how imperative Goshi's role as the second-in-command is. The smile on his face after Geki nearly kills him is so sweet. Goshi is very much in charge this episode, figuring out where to find the plant in the first half of the episode, and even waking up from his coma to deduce how to defeat the monster. Power Rangers can't use the Dragon Ranger stuff. It can't use the Night stuff. Bulk and Skull stuck in a toilet can only burn through so many minutes. So what does this episode do? Oh my, I have been waiting so long to tell you. Goldar and Scorpina jump into the fight, and they take the Rangers on a magical journey through so many episodes worth of fights that Power Rangers had to cut out prior to now. It doesn't matter how incompatible the landscapes are from shot to shot, they're gonna throw all of it in. They have so much time to kill. I almost feel silly for complaining last time about the fight footage they had to cut out because, hey, it's here! You can even see Yuka in the shot. There's the footage of Don saying he has more guts than anybody from Reborn the Ultimate God. There's the Barza and Gnome try to kill a kid fight from the Sixth Hero. There's the fight for the dinosaur eggs from Female Warrior Scorpion, which I immediately recognized because Geki's not there. Now this is how you do a clip show. This episode made me feel equal parts excitement and shame over the fact that I have now been doing this for so long that I can easily pick out what episodes these random clips are from. Dora Narcissus and Octoplant are quite different. Well, that's not entirely true. It's more that Octoplant is missing a lot of the characterization of Dora Narcissus. Obviously, Octoplant doesn't possess the ability to raise the dead, but there's almost no footage of the monster that doesn't involve Japanese citizens or untransformed heroes, so there's very little of the monster in Power Rangers. As hinted at by the name, Dora Narcissus is vain and literally feeds on the energy of beautiful people. All of that is removed in Rita's Seed of Evil. Instead, we get an American shot of the Power Rangers with shovels, which just looks really funny to me. It'd be like seeing the Power Rangers go to the bathroom or write a check. It's silly seeing them do normal-looking things. Anyway, Dora Narcissus. There's one point where Dora Narcissus attacks a woman applying her makeup, and he stops and admires himself in her mirror. While none of the heroes see this, it does set up that his vanity is his weakness. As I said, Goshi puts that together when he wakes up, noticing that the monster is distracted by his reflection in a skyscraper. It's quick and simple, but it is a satisfying comeuppance, in line with the mythological character on which he is based. Since none of that is established in Power Rangers, it kinda comes out of nowhere. Even Jason, who is now the one to point it out since they can't use any of the Goshi cockpit shots, sounds confused by the whole thing.
She's looking at herself! Now's her chance!
And yeah, that's another difference. Dora Narcissus speaks with a male-sounding voice, while Octoplant is clearly intended to be female. This is the first time I can recall Power Rangers changing the gender coding of a monster, as opposed to a ranger. As outside of the formula as Geki Kill Your Tears is, it's only fitting that Daijujin appears in a very non-formulaic way. There's no summoning of the guardian beasts, there's no transformation footage. After Geki defeats Goshi, Daijujin bursts forth from the ground, fully formed and piloted by the other three Zyurangers. I guess the others feel the need to prove that Goshi isn't the only character who can be flamboyantly theatrical. There is nothing more Les Mis than the giant robot holding Geki holding Goshi. Power Rangers cuts in just as the camera moves beyond the humans, so I was wondering why Megazord was holding his hand out. Since I had just gotten back from my fun vacation through all the previous fight scenes, I went, aha! That's a shot from when Daijujin catches the falling girl. Turns out it wasn't. The episode just trained me to see conspiracy theories everywhere. Since this is a very formulaic episode of Power Rangers, though, all of this cool stuff is cut out and they summon Megazord just like every other time. To accomplish this, they reuse a shot from The Great Sneeze Plot, a Tiger Ranger-focused episode, so for some reason, Trini gets to call the monster out?
Cutie, huh? We'll see about that, you overgrown pedal pusher!
Maybe they thought she didn't have enough lines this episode. A common way Power Rangers pads for time is to use the full Daijujin transformation sequence, what Zyuranger uses the first time they combine their guardian beasts. They almost always use this, even though Zyuranger quickly switches over to a multi-screen montage to speed through it faster. Rita's Seed of Evil actually uses that this time. I can't help but find it really funny, though, that even when Power Rangers wants to get to the giant robot faster, Zyuranger still beats them. It really sounds like I'm picking on Rita's Seed of Evil, but I'm not. It's good. I like it. And I'm guessing I liked it as a kid. I found myself remembering lines of dialogue as I watched it. Aside from the travelogue of random fights, there was nothing in it that made me think I was missing some huge element from Zyuranger. It does its job, and it functions as a solid, regular episode of Mighty Morphin Power Rangers. It only seems pitifully underwhelming after you compare it to the episode it's based on, because the episode it's based on is anything but regular. It's particularly special, and that left me longing for what Rita's Seed of Evil could have been if MMPR wasn't dead set on this being just another episode. So don't take this as an indictment against it, but you can't be too surprised that Geki Kill Your Tears wins every category. It's one of the rare Zyuranger episodes that even does character focus better than Power Rangers. The only category Power Rangers had a shot at winning was action, due to its great putty fight, but it's still just a putty fight. It doesn't mean anything like Geki's fight with Goshi does. Zyuranger accomplishes something special here, and it deserves the win. And so much shade. I've always kind of admired Goshi for being the soft-spoken brains of the group, but this episode makes me appreciate him all the more. This series needs more bitter drag queen Goshi filing his nails with his axe while going, honey, you done screwed up. Zyuranger would have been a lot more fun if Goshi looked at Geki like he was an idiot every time he made a decision. Typically he blends into the background too much, but with my rewrites, this show is gonna soar. My other little series, Dragon Ball Dissection, just finished analyzing the entire original Dragon Ball manga, and it only took me 10 years to do it. So if you haven't checked that out, please do so. And if you want to support the channel on Patreon to get rewards like early access to videos, there's a link in the description. Thank you, and see you next time!